Hey everyone, Savannah Tree Foundation Field Manager Jake Henry here, and I'm doing another video on crepe myrtles. This is one of those trees that's worthy of multiple videos because there's just so many interesting things to talk about. And today I'd like to focus on the flowers and really all the cultivars that are available. So crepe myrtle, also known as Lagerstromia indica. There's actually a whole genus of crepe myrtles, but indica is the most common species that you'll find here in the southeast. Now there are many cultivars of crepe myrtles here. So as a reminder, a cultivar is a particular species that has been reproduced or cloned for particular characteristics. And for crepe myrtles, that typically means flower color. So we can see here, this one has some beautiful pink flowers on it. And that is usually what people select crepe myrtles for, is the flower color. Now there are a lot of other characteristics that can vary with these cultivars. So it could be the bark color, could be the form of the tree, could be the overall height of the tree. So it really can make a huge difference depending on the cultivar that you select. Now that's not just for physical characteristics, it can also matter for disease resistance as well. So there's a group of cultivars that all have Native American names, and all of those are resistant to powdery mildew, which is a pretty common issue we have here in the southeast. With all the humidity we get, it can really be detrimental if a crepe myrtle is in the shade affected by that. So having resistance to that can also be another perk. Let's just do a little close-up on these flowers because they are just beautiful, and hence the name. They're really fine and delicate, almost like crepe paper. So that's where crepe myrtle comes from. And actually, I didn't even mention the leaves can vary a lot too. The ones we're looking at here have nice green leaves on them. Some of those trees can have a dark purple foliage, really beautiful deep color. Now again, these are deciduous trees. There are some different species of crepe myrtles that are evergreen, but the most common ones that we find here are deciduous. And we can see we've got our pink flowers here, and we've got some white ones over there, and they have a distinctly different form. Fewer stems, a lot bigger, much more upright than these smaller, kind of more multi-stemmed cultivars. And part of the reason could actually be those power lines up there. So I think whoever planted these knew those power lines were there and specifically picked a cultivar that was going to stay a little bit shorter, so we can avoid trouble in the future of running into those power lines, which is always really important. Got to try to think ahead, not just what the tree will look like now, but what it will look like in 10, 20, 50 years. Here's a close-up of those white flowered crepes that we were just looking at. A lot more color on the bark of this compared to the pink one. Much more reddish brown underneath the bark that sort of peels away, and that's natural. It's supposed to do that. Lots of really interesting characteristics on these trees, and just an incredible amount of variety with the species and all the cultivars that are available. And you can see all these little green dots up here. These are all flowers that are going to be blooming pretty soon. They're just starting to open up, so now is a great time of year to go look for crepe myrtles if you're a fan of the flowers. And here's another cultivar, much more reddish flower, but again, a lot of multi-stems. This is really common with crepe myrtles. You can find some cultivars that are single stemmed, so they just grow as one main trunk. There's pros and cons to both, but lots and lots of variety. Really just an incredible amount of variety with these cultivars, and that's why it's so popular. You can get a lot of diversity with pretty low effort, and they're incredibly tough trees, so you can really just kind of beat them up, which most people do, even though they shouldn't. But really a popular tree, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's non-native, so we don't want to use it too much. They are becoming really popular, and because of that, we're starting to see a lack of diversity, because this is really the only ornamental that you see used to such an extent. So we want to try to encourage more diversity, more species. Crepe myrtles aren't inherently bad. We say right tree, right place. There's no such thing as a bad tree. But we do want to make sure that we're maintaining that diversity, even though this is a really strong tree in terms of visual diversity and where you can plant it. But again, just wanted to touch on this today. We'll probably do another video on crepe myrtles at some point if I can find one that's been topped. Very controversial procedure. We want to talk about that because that's an important one, deserving of its own video. So thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos. Take care.